in this video, I'm going to teach you how to make your dream fantasy sword. Whether you want to cosplay with it or just have fun being a ninja in the yard. This sword is a katana style, but you could use this technique to make a broadsword or any different style. Now, I'm going to be showing you how to make a sword out of wood here today. I think wood is a great solution for making a sword because it's cheap, it's easy, and it's super durable and accessible. Having said that, there are other great ways to make a sword, and I might show some of those later. If you want to make a big He-Man broadsword, one really cool way to do that is to take a piece of PVC and put insulation foam, the kind that you spray on, and you'll have this big cloud of solid foam, and then you can literally sculpt your prop just by carving away stuff. But I think this is a really good technique for sword making, so let's get into it. It's been made in the style of the 2B sword from the video game Nier Automata, or Automata, or whatever, and it's a katana style sword, and I made it out of a piece of plywood. It's probably better to make your sword out of hardwood actually if you want a more durable sword, but I just had plywood around. Basically, the first thing you have to do is figure out what style sword you want to make, and then draw a little sketch of that if you like, but you're going to be drawing a sketch of it on wood to cut out, so, you know, not 100% necessary. Anyway, then the next thing you have to do is select your piece of wood. I selected a piece of plywood, and it's a little thicker obviously than a real katana, but if I'd made it as thin as an actual katana, it wouldn't be very durable, and it would probably look a lot more threatening to people. This has a great appearance. It really does look like a sword. It takes a great photograph. I'm not saying it's the best ever 2B sword or katana prop, but it definitely does the job for me, and for the effort I put into it, I'm really super happy with it. So, once you've selected your piece of wood, you're going to want to draw the sword that you want to cut out onto the wood, because you're going to be cutting it out with a jigsaw. Well, you don't have to cut it out with a jigsaw. I suppose you could theoretically use a different method, but that's the method I'm going to be advocating here today. So, for my pattern, what I did was I drew the sword onto craft foam, because that's durable and I can store it forever as a pattern and it won't tear like paper. Then, I pinned the pattern to the wood using sewing needle pins. This sword was a collaborative effort. I actually had a couple different friends help me make it, which is really cool, and I'm proud of that. Obviously, I'm proud of things that I did 100% myself, but it's a really nice feeling when you have a friend help you on something and you share your artistic knowledge and just have fun working together. Really, that's better than doing stuff on your own, I think. So, my friend Ivor was nice enough to come over and share some of his knowledge and his tools with me. He cut this out. Once the shape of the sword was cut out, we had to taper down the edge to get that sharp sword look. So rather than just endlessly sanding it down for an eternity, what we did was we used a tool called a wood plane. And it's basically like a big razor, and you slide it along the blade to shave off as much wood as you need accordingly. After that, you will need to sand it a bit just to give it that smooth factory finished appearance. If there are any little holes in the blade just from the nature of the wood or from the job you did jigsawing it out, you can fill those a little bit with wood filler and then sand it down to keep the appearance nice and smooth. After all that, you're ready to paint it, but make sure to do a good job doing the sanding. Start with a large grain and then finish with a fine grain to make sure your sword is as smooth as it can be. I used Krylon spray paint for the silver of the blade and for the black of the handle, and I got a smooth separation on the blade and the handle just by using painter's tape. The trick with spray paint is to stay really far back and not get greedy. Make sure you do a couple of coats so that you don't get drips. If you try to apply too much paint at once, then a lot will get on the surface and you'll start to see those unsightly drips. Then I did some detailing on the blade with Tamiya acrylic paint. It's not my most beautiful work ever, it's kind of a rush job. and I would have liked to have maybe some 3D ornaments here, but at the same time, I'm not totally done with it. I might figure out something to do with it yet before calling this project done. Anyway, after that, I had to consider how I was going to put the handguard of the sword on. So I made this one here out of wood. We cut the handguard itself out with a jigsaw, and that was fine. After sanding it down, we had to cut the hole for the blade of the sword to fit through. We did that by using a plunge cutter. But the bit on the plunge cutter was too big for the smallest part of the hole. So Ivor had to use his tin snips to cut the bit of the plunge cutter to make a smaller piece. Making your handguard out of EVA foam will certainly be easier, but making one out of wood will be a lot more durable. It's up to you which style you'd like to go for. I just gave it a little dry brushing, but if I wanted to ship the sword or pack it tight, it might be inconvenient to have the guard on it. So I made this version of the sword, and there is a foam handguard that slips on and off. I'll show you how that works. Okay, here's the little foam handguard that I made out of EVA foam, and I just painted it a few times. I painted it some kind of dark metallic color, then I dry brushed it poorly with silver. You can see that if you squeeze the blade through, it actually stays pretty tight on the sword. There we are. It pretty much looks just as good as the wooden one, and you can let me know in the comments bar below which handguard you liked better. So I went on to make the butt ornament out of EVA foam as well, and these little decoration bits on it are made out of craft foam. I also painted that a dark color, and then I just dry brushed it with a bit of silver. And dry brushing is basically when you dip your brush in paint and then you run it around on paper or something until the brush is basically dry, but there's still a little bit of paint on it. So then when you beat it around on an object, it'll create little tiny fine detailings, especially on the corners. I glued the ornament on with Gorilla Glue, and I'm going to put a little additional wrapping around that to finish it up, and then I'm going to add one of those golden string tassels that they have on the 2B sword in the game, and those are like those little string puff tassels that you often see on fancy Chinese products. And before the ornament was attached, the handle had to be wrapped. The handle of the katana, I believe, is called the tsukamaki, and I am really not good with like tying knots and stuff. So on top of getting my friend Ivor to help me build this entire sword, sand it, do the work with the plane and all that kind of stuff, I also got another friend to help me tie the wrap on the handle. So my friend is really good with knots and stuff, and this is the traditional material used to wrap the sword handles with. I ordered it on eBay, it was pretty cheap, and I'm really grateful that I had a couple friends who could help me bring this product to fruition. I might give one of these swords to my friend who wrapped the handle because he's really good with Levy Wand, and he expressed interest in doing a 2B cosplay. So that'd be really cool because I could turn this sword into a Levy Wand and have it float around him. That's about it for my video on making a katana style sword for your cosplay out of wood. Now, if you have any questions about this process, please leave them in the comments bar below. And if you'd like to see the whole process of making the sword in more detail, just shoot me a comment, because I'd like to make another one anyway, and I definitely wouldn't be against making another video. So be sure to check out my other nerdy videos and subscribe, because I have lots more fun stuff coming your way. Cheers, guys!